besties, prophet, apostle, pastor, wifey, mother, Cynthia Thompson, on location here in Miami. Yeah, supposed to be on vacation, but I'm on location. Always a prophet, always an apostle, always a pastor, always a mommy, and a grand. So I'm here enjoying my grandkids, but every time we get together, there is this synergy, there is this atmosphere that comes in the room that God connects us spiritually, emotionally, physically. We just have a long history. Maybe we'll get into that for a moment. Maybe not, I don't know. Well, why don't we jump straight into that and then go into your intensive Mind Women's Conference this year, God's Leading Ladies in October, getting off the cruise ship and landing in Atlanta, Georgia with some of God's leading ladies, apostolic trailblazers. So that's powerful. You may be one of them.
That's right. Now, you know what? That sounds like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if the ladies are really hearing what you're saying. But apostolic trailblazers, absolutely. That is so for the now. And women need to know that they really have apostolic charge that God has given them to do great things. I'm excited about this women's conference.
Well, you're a trailblazer.
Amen.
When we look back, real quick, switching back, because I believe that on this journey or this season of our lives, there are so many women that are meeting their untimely demise because they failed to develop solid relationships, friendships. And on this journey, while you're working ministry, you need anchors. You need women that are on the same page, that understand your journey, that will help you guard your health, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's when we launched the Women's Conference. Healing the whole woman, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. So while we're looking at each other, we're checking each other's pulse. How are you doing physically? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing spiritually? And how did we meet? How did we connect? I know it was God.
You know it was God.
Without trying to sound religious or spiritual.
Oh my God.
It really was God.
Years ago in Tulsa, right?
Yes.
This is about in the early 90s. We met way back in the early 90s in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You and I were sitting in the room. I'll never forget that. The room was filled with people just chatting, and we were sitting there not critiquing or judging, just in our own little world. Interacting.
Watching,
watching in a nice way. Watching, and God connected our hearts.
He sure did. And that was so long ago. And we've remained friends, boy, almost 20 years. That's been a long time.
Absolutely.
And we've remained friends. And women who have both been called and used of God to do great things in ministry in the state of Florida. You know, you got one end, I got the other end.
Absolutely.
But just staying on the forefront of, like you're saying, trailblazing, and apostolically doing what God has called us to do, to pioneer, you know, and establish things, and so, but remain friends.
Absolutely. And you've done our apostolic and prophetic conference.
Sure has.
I've been in a part of your intensive, part of your church service. So you've been a part of my journey. I've been a part of your journey. And every time we meet up, it's just as if it was yesterday. We don't miss a moment. I love that. We don't have to talk every day, but our hearts are connected. And I believe that that is the mandate now for women in ministry, that they need to put aside their little petty issues and cattish attitudes and join each other and hold up each other's arms so that they can blaze that trail and not become each other's arch nemesis. So tell us about the apostolic and the role that it has played in your life. You went from wife to mommy to co-pastor to prophetess, where you just kind of landed, hovered over there and landed there, but it has always been those roots in the ground of the apostolic, helping to co-founder, founding the world. Apostolic by nature is apostolos, which is that Greek word for one sent with a durable power of attorney. So you're the apostolos, the durable power of attorney. God sent you and he's backing you.
Wow, that's powerful.
So we're not allowing other people to bully us, especially as women. We can be our worst enemy. We don't have to worry about men fighting us, we fight each other. So you were sent with a durable power of attorney to do what? in this
Wow.
region,
Wow.
globally.
Yeah.
What are you called to do?
Yeah, globally in this region, one of the things the Lord had given me the assignment of is to be the guard and a watch care over the prophetics. You know, we hear the word prophet or prophesy and prophetic. We kind of intertwine those words and don't know they have separate functions. You know, I can be a prophet, but if I'm a prophet, then I should prophesy. And then if I'm prophesying out of the prophetics, which is really the mind of God, where we access God's mind. And so God wishes all of us to be prophetic. We should all be operating out of God's mind and listening to know what it is God wants us to do the way He wants it done. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen all the time everywhere. And so we begin to set up the religious structures, and we do things according to our mind and our understanding and our way of intelligence. But there is a way that God has already called for us. And one of the greatest things He given me, you know, when I met you years ago, you was establishing, you had schools, you know. Oh my God, you're talking about a trailblazer. You were doing, still running, right?
I'm determined to finish as strong as I began. Between the seminary, the school of the prophets, and now I'm transitioning out, and in a year and a half, I'm going to retire from pastoring and just totally move as an apostolic overseer,
That's right.
just overseeing the school of the prophets, overseeing that seminary, overseeing the churches, and we have a lot of churches that are under our tutelage or under our covering, but that is my passion, writing books, helping people to develop their gifts. And that is hard work.
Yes. It is absolutely hard work. But I know when I met you for years coming to your church and watching all the things that you had pioneered, things that you had established, and things that you was on the front line of accomplishing. Women, sometimes we need to know, like you said, to get behind other women and not look and say, well, how they doing all that? Well, who she thinks she is, you know. But to look at that and say, wow, God, that's amazing, because as women, we do understand pain. We understand pressure. We understand how to push in the midst of all of it. And then we understand sometimes when we're apostolic, we know how to establish it to make sure it has roots to remain. And that's what I always saw in your life. So when you start talking about apostolic, well, the apostolic was always there. You know what I'm saying? You just had to walk out and fulfill things that needed to be finished and accomplished for you to move on now. You know, and I'm so excited for what God is doing. About other people, you were never intimidated, and you kind of thought, isn't everybody like this?
Right.
Don't everybody feel like this? Isn't everybody like happy? And you know, don't you think the best? And you got a rude awakening because you found out that people that said friend didn't really mean it. You found out that people that say we're gonna be together, a lot of words that you heard, even the things you saw happen with your parents, made you kind of back up on a whole lot of things and say, I don't think I want to do this. And you tried everywhere to run from it. You tried to get a job over here, to run over there, to do this. You was talking about moving other places. You tried everything to run, and God wouldn't let you because God knew the mandate that was on your life for next. He knew that He would heal your heart and bring you through this, and that wouldn't stay the way it was at that time. How you saw it, it wouldn't remain. But the Lord is taking you into a place because you surely will be the one that rebuild the breaches. You know, the rebuilder of the breach. You are called to bring people together, countries together, nations together. You are one who God is going to use to merge mantles and bring people into a powerful giftings. You look at them and say, you belong over here and that belongs over there. You see what giftings, you have an eye for where things fit, for where things belong. You can see it in people when people don't understand that, but you're going to be such shrewd instructor of people learning instructions of life, how to function in life, how to grow out into who they are. Your gift is incredible, and God is going to sharpen it over the next 2 years. And you're going to find yourself prophesying. You're going to find yourself moving. Even in the arts, that's a dimension of the prophetic because it deals with the creative realm. And so you got to understand who you are as a prophet of the Lord, that God has given you that because that creative dimension is upon you. You can see what other people can't. They don't have sight, but that's that prophetic call that is upon your life. And you'll be able to prophesy to people, and don't look to do it like you've seen it done with other people. Your gifting shall flow different because you're very much called into the arts. You might dance out of prophecy. You might sing out of prophecy. You know what I'm saying? You may even draw out of prophecy. But your giftings are going to be so utilized in the generation you're called to because they are an expressive generation. And God gave you arts and expression because the generation that you shall impact with your ministry and your call will see it through the way God showed it to you. And you will empower them because that's who you are for the generation God has called you to. So just get ready because there's so much getting ready to come out of you. Books are going to flow.
Oh.
Things in education are going to be incredible, because though you look like you're starting that way through education, but it really will be the catapulting place that God will set you in and start you to launch you. I don't know if your mom started through education, but I'm going to tell you this, that's been a big part of her heart, and her mandate is in education.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she's had schools. That's why she had always educated leaders. She's always set things in place for people not to just be spiritual, but to be knowledgeable.
Right.
And that same call is upon your life, that you'll give balance to people and bring people back to understanding when they say apostle, what does it really mean?
Right.
And to really embrace and no longer shy away because they've been hurt. But you will bridge the gap and really help be a part of building and mending this millennial generation back to a generation of the Joshuaites that's called to bring people into the place of promise. You have such an anointing.
I was the typical woman. I felt like because my husband and I were a team and he was the apostle and I'm the prophet, we were ordained, or Dr. Hammond laid hands on us, prophesied the word of the Lord when we were in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Absolutely, in our early 20s, and telling us what we would do, and I just decided, well, there's no way that I'm going to be an apostle, because he is the apostle. And I am the prophet, and not understanding promotion, not understanding elevation, not understanding that we evolve.
And outside of gender, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was hung up on that.
On that gender.
Yeah,
Because that's what we're taught. We're taught a lot that in our, depending on what denomination you come through, we've taught that it is a no-no for certain things for women to embrace and walk out into, except that it is still the Spirit of the Lord that is ministering to us and dealing with us, and he's outside of gender. God says whosoever.
Right.
And so because he's outside of gender, women who struggle, and I don't know about you, but I know for years I've had women I've had to minister to, pastors' wives, some of them that are labeled as have been evangelists, or just some of them missionaries or different labels. They really have been apostolic prophetic weapons. And they've not known it, and they've not been educated in who they are until they meet people that maybe yourself in your school, or come to my school, or get in that atmosphere that we've created to say, you are more like us and you're different. And how do we function? Like, how do you continue to be who you are? Like you said, with your husband, kids, we have all these dual roles. And yet God still charges you, and he calls you to step into this incredible office to say, pioneer for me, birth for me. And through all of it, we just keep going.
I think one of the things that I faced, and a lot of women face, is the lack of confidence. Once you find out who you are and find yourself, and the insecurities come from venomous attacks from women as well as men. If they realize that you're confident and that you're gifted, quite often they're threatened by that.
Yeah, that's true.
When you enter the room,
That's
you don't have to open your mouth. You become a threat. They're threatened by the fact that God uses you. Threatened by the fact that you're anointed. Threatened by the fact that you may actually get something, or a position, or an opportunity that they feel that they should be privy to. And not understanding that promotion comes from the Lord. The best thing that happened to me is when I found out who I was, there was no stopping me.
Wow, that's powerful.
I opened my apostolic and prophetic conference this year, hearing the voice of my mentor, Bob Jones, who's gone on to be with the Lord. But he was always saying, "Hun," and I could hear it in his voice, "nobody can hinder you but you. Hun, no one can hinder you but you." So the only person that's a real threat to you is your own insecurities. When you don't know who you are, and you're threatened by, or you're driven by what people think instead of what God thinks, you'll hinder your success. So, seeing my future in a year and a half, it's all apostolic from this day forward, driving forward. I'm open to them. I'm not bothered with sitting with the bishops. I'm not bothered with prophesying to bishops, to apostles, to senators, to presidents, kings, queens. It does not matter, because God has his hand on my life. And since the information comes from him, I'm not threatened by those people that feel that they're the gatekeepers for who God uses. So I think that once you arrive at that point in your life that you want to maximize your potential, you don't want to miss anything that God has for you. I'm at that 63 100-year mark, and I plan to go over 100. So everything from this moment forward is about, have I accomplished everything that God wants me to accomplish? So if I don't wake up the next day, I'm waiting to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant, that you've done everything that I told you to do. So I don't plan to allow people to hinder me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good. And I think that's probably to the core of who you are. You know, the Bible says you're born a prophet. You're born with those different types of dimensions and faculties within yourself. You know, you didn't wake up and say, well, this is what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to be a pastor, I'm going to establish this. But God gave you tenacity and fortitude. He gave you a spirit that wouldn't quit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Certain things that we don't even recognize as women, that we do every day, that really does say, this is who you are.
You mean like the pastoral and the prophetic that you were doing moments ago? Just slid right into prophetic ministry.
Yeah.
I said to my daughter, that's who she is. It's not a label.
Exactly.
It is your DNA.
Say, who do you see that? You know, when people kind of say things to you, or when they address you in a certain way, or their acknowledgement to you in a certain way, that's what they see in you. You know what I'm saying? That ministers something back to them. That sometimes we get stuck in certain labels, in certain modes. You said something earlier. You said when we discover who we are, you know, how is it that we can be as diverse as we are? Like, I'm not just that. I'm this, you label the mother, you know, the co-pastor or the pastor, or the one that operates prophetically as a prophet, the one that now establishes as an apostle. All of those things, and not just say, I can't be this without being that. And I think sometimes women sometimes they're boxed in because we're not always embraced in the things that we see ourselves in. You know what I'm saying? We're not always celebrated in some of those things, but yet somebody will come along and they'll see you for what it is that others can't celebrate.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's what matters. Sometimes the view that other individuals have of you is a wake-up call.
Yes.
It's basically saying, you are my mother / mentor. It's mothering on a different level. You are my pastor / mother. It's on a different level. You are my apostolic mother / grand. That's my grandson calls me. I'm the grandest.
Oh, you
Instead of a grandmother, I'm grand.
You're grand. Okay.
But
I like
then
that.
you are this person in my life that's going to take me to the next level. We are the answer for the millennials.
Yes.
Instead of fighting them, we're their guide.
That's it.
We're their light in darkness.
That's it.
And they think differently from us.
That's right.
Their mindset, they intellectualize so many things. We spiritualize. So if you put those two things together, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this season of my life. I'm very excited about this season of your life.
Your frustrations, I can see your frustrations. It's like part of you want to scream because you've always had big ideas and big dreams, and it almost seemed like the enemy came in to just frustrate you in seasons to make you lose your faith. But the Lord said, encourage you, because every word He's spoken over you, you've got many prophecies over your life. Not one of them have fallen to the ground. And the Lord said, tell you, not one word He's spoken to you that He has not forgotten, that He shall fulfill what He said. Don't let the process harden you. Let the process you, because surely all of this is proving your heart towards God. You're getting ready to see such a shift. You guys are getting ready to turn the corner of some of the things that you thought, God, when is it going to happen? God said, tell you it's happening now. It's happening while you sit on this sofa. He said it's happening now. I activate things that have looked like there has been no momentum, look like there has been no occurrences, look like things have not been happening. But I come prophetically to activate the things, to stir it up. I say things will begin to stir now. I call there to be now prophetic occurrences that begin to happen. The prophetic words that were spoken, I take them off the shelf. And I decree and declare, as God said, this is a year of fullness, that some of those things come into fruition for you, that you get the light back in your eyes and your joy back in your heart concerning God and your direction for your life. People have said a lot of things, and you've said, God, well, show me. I'm willing to do it. I want to do it. I just need to know where. I just need to know how. So you've been so frustrated saying, God, show me, because your heart have been so willing. You're not trying to run away from God and renege on God, but your heart has been, God, just show me. And the Lord say, tell you, you're about to have such a suddenly in your life. When you think ain't nothing happening, you're about to hit a suddenly. This suddenly season that is coming upon you, getting ready to open massive doors for you.
yourself and Pastor Billy going in the next 5, 10 years?
Oh my God. I think I see ourselves going in the next 5 to 10 years, whatever. It's really establishing ministry works, building not just churches, but educational, foundational things for kids, the next generation. I think it's so important. We talk about a lot about manifestations. The Bible says it's a wicked generation that seeks after signs all the time. And we talk about signs and wonders, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But we have to be very careful that we stop educating. Because a lot of times we're seeing two powers, one overruling the other. They threw down their rod, their serpents. Moses came and he took down his rod, and that serpent ate up the other serpents. So we have the greater power that's working in us. But I believe that as God has given us a mandate, it is to go to many countries. We've traveled all over the world, establishing something in Israel. Israel is our passion and our heart.
Well, you just came back.
I just came back from Israel about a month ago. And so we're taking tours over. We're wanting to educate our people. When I say our people, I'm talking about the African American community into their true spiritual roots of Israel. You talk about knowing who you are, knowing spiritually. If we're going to lead spiritually, we need to know where we come from. Everything comes out of that little land of Israel and out of Jerusalem. We'll find our spiritual roots back here. And so we want to be able to educate and take people that need to see and solidify their faith of knowing who they are in God. That when we go back to Israel, we said, I know there's a God. And I know he's my God. I'm a part of his lineage and these blessings. And so that's a big, big purpose for us in Israel.
I am so passionate about that. We just had Dr. Quarterman in, who normally every month sends money to Israel. She's a dentist in Daytona Beach, Florida. But her topic was pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And we took up an offering during that conference to send to Israel. So that I'm so passionate about your passion.
Yes.
But on a same note, but different, how do we empower women and so that they will not attack one another? Because I want to dub this broadcast more about the apostolic, but also friendships and relationships. How do we empower one another? How have you empowered other women in your climb? If you look at yourself from the secular side and then from the spiritual side. You came into Christianity. Perhaps you operated a different way. On the secular side, you have this book of Obama, recording artist. You married an athlete and all of that. So that side, the left side of the cross, I call it, is totally different from the right side of the cross. How do you keep from bringing those little petty issues into ministry, into church, so it's not a competition? How have you embraced and empowered women? Because I want us to empower other wonderful women. God's Leading Ladies Women's Conference. How can we empower each other?
It's amazing because I think that traveling the world and have experienced entertainment, that world of entertainment with sports, and my husband being a former professional athlete and me being into modeling and singing career. Coming out of that,
you still look like a model.
Thank you, Jesus. But coming out of that world and entering into the world of Christ, the core of who you are is who you are. God just began to really solidify. You said something earlier, knowing who you are. When you're in industries of the world, they tell you what they want you to do to produce and market for them. They tap into what they see. And sometimes you're living out of falsehoods. And a lot of times we see people in the entertainment industry, they're operating out of a false love. The accolades of people, the applause, they live off of what other people can tell them that's special and great about them for them. But they don't know what's special and great about them for themselves. One of the things Christ did for me, and what I know he does in us as women, is that you said it earlier. When I come to know who I am, I won't tear you down for being who you are.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. I think it's so important that we talk about liberties and freedoms and the responsibility of being free, ladies. Because with freedom, we cry out for it, but there's a responsibility that comes with freedom. And that responsibility and freedom says this: I give myself permission to be the best I can be. And when I give myself permission and release me to be the best, I give you the permission to do the same. And it takes real emotional, mature women. When you process emotionally, one of the things I've been talking about lately, we're talking about, is the transformation of the glorification. And so we're talking about Christ didn't just save us to just go to church, and be involved in different ministry departments, but he saved us to be transformed into the image and the likeness of Him. I think women, we put a lot of emphasis on buying the right shoes, you know, getting the right dresses,
Absolutely.
you know, and sometimes people connect with you in your life because they say, oh, I love your shoe. Girl, you like Louis Vuitton, you like Gucci bags. And we connect sometimes for the exterior. But when God starts changing my shoes and my purse and my suit, then if you came in my life for that, then you're going to leave with it. You got to know the coreness of what it is that you really honestly celebrate and love about an individual. I love your authenticity because I'm an authentic woman. I'm not fake, I'm not phony, I'm just real. And I have a real love for people. I love your strength. I love the fact that I could look at you and I could see a woman who was a fighter, a woman who wouldn't give up because there was something in me.
Yes.
Even as I was younger, there was something in me that saw you. And I said, I need that type of woman in my life. You got to identify with who you need in your life to help you get to what you see. Maybe you're not there yet, but you're on your way. And it's important to identify those people as they come along, different women that says, you know what, I'm not trying to use you to get where I'm going, but I know I'm going to need your paperwork. I know you need your strength. I know I'm going to need your notes, you know, somewhere down the line because I've seen that you've mastered something that I'm entering into. And so you should set your life up with people, they say, what, people that are beneath you, that you can pull up, people that's on the same level so y'all can keep and strengthen and encourage you, and somebody at the next place to pull you up. And I think that when people set their lives and identify those things and set their lives in a place to be real with saying, this is where I am, but this is not who I am. See, because where you are is not who you are.
Right.
I may be at that place, but that's not who you are. And you cannot settle in the season where you are. That it's not, if God did not qualify everything in your life right now to measure up to the fullness of what He said, then you're living not in the fullness of who God called you to be. And you can't settle in that. You got to look at that and say, this is just a passing place. This too shall pass. I'm not staying here. And so when we looked at each other for years ago, there was something that we saw in the core of who we were.
Yes.
That said we needed each other in our life.
Exterior.
That not the outward exterior.
Yes.
And throughout the course of life, though we haven't talked all the time, when it's time for us to reconnect, when it's time for us to talk, it's just like last week.
Yes.
We just catch back up. And that's what lets you know that our relationship is not built off exterior things. Because these things are always turning and changing. But the core of who you are, what God has called, it remains the same.